Sonic Forces. Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. Sonic and the Secret Rings? Oh yeah, I remember that
was my
one.
childhood.
The party mode was so
Razor
Jin
Jin
was such a good villain.
take on tactical
Love
resolution
that
is
handkerchief.
We need
Stark
this
Sonic
Sonic
was
with
so
emotion.
cool. F it, I'll do it myself. Hey all the accelerated and agitated. It's the biggest Zaz fan around. Ever just see some RGB values and get pissed off? Hey, it's f***ing cerulean, not cyan. Oh, the Sonic fanbase. One of the most notorious, infamous, and third adjective fan bases in the gaming hemisphere. Fans of the blue blur have been dodging, embracing, and flinging since his eyes turned green, and he had a rough transition to 3D, as when he's not kissing Princess and turning into a werehog, he's Sonic the Hedgehog has had one heck of a long and storied history over his 30 plus years of running. From the classic games with titles that stood the test of time and truly earned their title of Classic I'll Ignore You, to the Saturn, filled with games that look at it and go, oh you novelty you. And then to the Dreamcast era, where he made his big jump into 3D and whoa, there's graphics, and the Z-axis, and the shadow guy, he's so cool! And then Sega up and died, going third party. And since then, it's been a wild ride through so many gameplay styles and adventures with this blue hedgehog boy. When the words Sonic fan pop into someone's head, a lot of images could pop up. On the positive side, there's all the cool fan artists, people who make all those sweet fan games and mods and fan projects. Honestly, some Sonic fans are some of the most creative people out there. Some of these fans were even so talented that they got noticed by Sega themselves. Christian Whitehead and the crew behind Sonic Mania weren't just fans, but were incredibly talented and knew exactly what they enjoyed with the classic games and how to rebuild that. And it led to them creating one of the best Sonic games of all time. And Sonic Mania's composer, T. Lopes, who I followed before, it was cool by the way, went on to make music for not just Sonic Mania, but Team Sonic Racing and various other Sonic remixes as well. He is up there with the Sonic music gods Jun Sonoe and Tomoyo Otani, which is a crazy achievement. Not to mention, Sonic fans created my first Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy Sonic. Oh, hell yeah! And then you have all the weirdo goblin fans, the ones creating all those cringy OCs, and all that fan fiction that's been the butt of the internet's jokes for years now. And I am here to say that the people making this stuff are absolutely mostly perfectly fine. Yeah, sure, they're kind of weird and very, very, very easy to laugh at, but most of them are just people having fun with the franchise they like, so no harm, no foul. They're all fine and good, but the real meat and potatoes of the Sonic fan discourse, God I hate vocab, comes from when someone makes the grave mistake of talking to a Sonic fan about Sonic games. I think that nowadays, there are three main kinds of Sonic fans. The smallest type are the classic Sonic fans, the kinds who years ago would be going, green eyes, 3D, they should have stopped at the Genesis. They used to be pretty annoying, but they got Mania and they've been chill ever since. The middle-sized part of the fanbase, or what I'm calling Sonic fans. They do this bonker things, hear me out! They enjoy Sonic games. They play some classic, enjoy adventure, enjoy some colors, generations, and Mania, and things here and there in between. These are the Sonic fans that are most likely to watch Sonic Boom or read the comics. The last group of Sonic fans are the biggest, or at least it seems that way because they are the loudest, the 2000 Sonic fans and more so the Dark Age Sonic fans. 2000 Sonic fans may have played the classic games, but their alignment, I know it sounds f***ing stupid, but stick with me, with the series lies squarely with the games released during the 2000s. They grew up with adventure, heroes, had their childhoods throughout the Dark Ages, and their nostalgia lies with this era of Sonic games. But this was the Dark Age. Sonic games weren't doing well on account of them being mostly bad, and most of the older classic era Sonic fans clowned on these games non-stop for years. But you can't make fun of game I grew up with game! It's like after years of having their favorite games being dogpiled, they got protective of the Dark Age games and defend it like it's their duty. It's okay, let go, Shadow isn't a good game, we can all admit it. But because they can't stop there, they gotta go and do the same to the games that came afterwards. Like high school freshmen who got made fun of by high school seniors, so when they became seniors, well now the next generation just has to feel the wrath, don't they? Or for a more gamer comparison, it's like how Pokemon Gen 1ers were the annoying ones trashing on the shiny new 5th generation, but now it's shifted to where the Gen 5ers grew up and trashing the new games. Classic fans hated their games, so now they gotta hate the next decade's games. Forces is miles better than Shadow, 06, and Secret Rings. I feel like that should be the most ice-cold take in the universe. In this day and age, that's ice cap. Apparently a mediocre to okay, to maybe good even, game is worse than barely playable pieces of garbage. Because at least these games tried. Yeah, if I went live on stage on Broadway and tried not to shit my pants, but did it anyway, doesn't matter how hard I tried, the results stink. Did people forget that 06 sapped the whole cast of any personality, and the game flat out did not work? Did people forget that the only thing harder than controlling secret rings was taking its story seriously? Did people forget that Shadow's game gave him a laughingstock reputation that he still has to this day? That's okay, they had ambition. 2000 Sonic fans waved the word ambition over the heads of their favorite dog shit like an all-powerful instant shield against the haters. It's this weird notion where the dark ages where the bad games tried their best and the stinky newer games had no ambition whatsoever, which doesn't make sense, because you don't build a whole new engine and add a brand new gameplay style with tons of customization if you're not trying. Sonic Forces had clear ambition, much like every other game in the series, and there was clearly cut content and ideas Sonic Team couldn't fully flesh out like they wanted. 06 defenders rave about the potential the game had, and strangely ignore Forces both having more potential and reaching more of its potential. Sorry, but 06's ambition doesn't mean jack diddly squat when 90% of the game is still bad conceptually. Having 50 great ideas means nothing when they're all executed horribly. Talking about ambition, Lost World tried out an entirely new gameplay style and tried a level design method that the series had never tried before. But it brought back wisps, so I guess it's worthless. Sorry dude, the methless profile picture on the Discus forum site told me so. If a Sonic fan thinks this scene is anything but laughably bad, they're likely a Dark Age Sonic fan. But at least this is back when Sonic had soul, and Sega didn't drive the series into the ground by hiring the worst writers of all time, Pontac and Graf, who turned the character into a laughingstock and ruined the narrative integrity of Sonic the Hedgehog, Wisps, Deadly Six, Baldy McNosehair, Zavok. What were they thinking? Ask a Sonic fan to name 2 writers they hate and 2 writers they like. We'll answer the first question. I dare say that Ken Pontac and Warren Graf are some of the most overhated writers, maybe of all time, I don't know. They were responsible for the writing of the Sonic games going from Sonic Colors to Team Sonic Racing. They mainly write more lighthearted stories, very cartoony in nature, filled with quips and jokes. The games where they're writing align more with Sonic Heroes rather than the craziness of games like Adventure. Some Sonic fans f***ing hate their writing. They aren't just neutral, they don't just kinda dislike them. No, they hate these stories and get viscerally angry at some of the things Sonic says in these games. I do not get it. I'll just come out and say I like their writing. I like how they handle Sonic, I love how Sonic and Tails interact, and in particular, I think Lost World has the best non-boom and non-movie portrayal of Tails, minus the one bad scene. I find their jokes to be more hit than miss, and they've had hints in every Sonic game where Amy didn't suck. Honestly, after the disaster stories of Shadow, 06, Secret Rings, a fun, simple cartoony story of Sonic stopping Eggman at an amusement park was just the lighthearted fun the series needed. Things got way too serious, and despite me liking these game stories, I think dialing the tone back was so the right choice. I will maintain that Lost World is one of the better stories in the franchise, which isn't the highest bar in the world, but a win's a win. Also, a story being simple and lighthearted doesn't make it inherently worse than a bigger story like Adventure. If these games are like shonen anime movies, Colors in Lost World are more like Saturday morning cartoon specials. I find it so weird how people seem to only want Sonic to be a super shonen series, when dude, it's Sonic. He's a goofy blue hedgehog with big Looney Tunes gloves. I like when Sonic does the crazy shonen nonsense, but the beautiful thing about Sonic is that he works equally as well as a lighthearted cartoon character and a shonen action hero. One of the best versions of Sonic is very much a lighthearted cartoon character, and another one of the best versions of Sonic is the shonen action hero. I just cannot see the hate for these game stories. People get so mad at lines like,
"Best boss beating ever!"
or,
"That was cool!" Pun entirely intended.
I think, really? You hate this? Of all things to be angry at, Shadow being ruined, the corniness of Secret Rings, f***ing methless, Sonic saying silly things where they draw the line, really? And quick tangent, but Baldy McNosehair in particular is one of the most weirdly hated lines, because it's a line that gets said twice, thrice at most, and it's no different than anything Sonic has ever said really. It's no different than him saying Robotnik, or a giant talking egg. Sonic hears a new insult for Eggman. He laughs at the insult for Eggman. He calls Eggman the insult. It's some Sonic stuff. So I never got, and will continue to not get, why this line in particular is so vehemently hated. I just feel bad for them. They got hired, did their job pretty well, and got accused of ruining the franchise. I've seen so many posts and videos talking about how they single-handedly ruined every character, celebrating them not being on Frontiers, and just cursing them for committing the crime of making the cartoon Hedgehog act like a cartoon hedgehog. Ken Ponsack went on record saying how he didn't feel comfortable going to conventions because of the fans' hyper-negative reception of him, and hey, that just kinda sucks a whole lot. I hope they come back to the franchise in some way. If Ian Flynn's gonna be handling the main series games for the foreseeable future, it'd be cool to see Ponsack and Graf on some of the smaller games maybe. Maybe a smaller 2D game, or a new racing game or some other spin-off. I think Forces had their worst stuff, both being out of their element in terms of tone, and translating instead of just writing. They work best with the lighthearted cartoony content they're clearly used to, as Team Sonic Racing has some of their best stuff. And I can't not mention the worst string of words the Sonic fanbase has come up with. The Meta Era. First off, it's pretty silly to arbitrarily decide this string of Sonic games is a different era, and the only drastic change were the writers and the voice actors. And the latter changed because they used a new studio, because 4Kids almost went out of business, and got bought out by Konami. And it changed even less than the first one because Mike Pollock stayed on, especially when the last game before the Meta Era and the first game in the Meta Era are both Boost Sonic games. Both of these games have the same gameplay, which should probably matter more in a series that is gameplay oriented like Sonic the Hedgehog. So why don't we call the era of Unleash the Forces the Boost Era? That would make way more sense than the Meta Era. And what is meta about this era? The Sonic Twitter account sometimes? The 5 jokes from Sonic Boom people share on Twitter every other week? They mention secret rings and colors in Generations? Is Baldy McNosehair secretly parenthetical over creative work referring to itself or to the dimensions of his genre comma self-referential? I can think of maybe 2 jokes in the games that I would call anything close to meta. I don't know if it's more meta than Sonic yelling about how they're Sonic Heroes! They break the fourth wall once or twice, but this is more just silly, rather than particularly meta. It's the kind of joke you see in a Cartoon Network show, or in other Sonic cartoons. People really mistook general lightheartedness for meta humor, and named a whole decade of games after humor that wasn't even in the games. But then I've heard people have the most out there theories, like, it's meta because Sonic Team was so scared of having another 06 that they deliberately made the stories more lighthearted and cartoony to avoid being serious because they don't take the Sonic series seriously, and the stories are made to call out themselves for being serious like in 06. And I stopped listening around here. It's like people make the wildest reaches to justify the stupid naming scheme when in reality, they probably just wanted to tell a simple story because they thought it'd be fun, and I don't think they'd spend months crafting a whole level from 06 if they were scared of having people remember it. I don't think they planned to have Mephiles and Sonic Forces, holy f***, we dodged a bullet, if they were scared of 06. Also, Sonic Forces existed, and mileage may vary, but it was a more serious story. I also think it's pretty weird how much stock Sonic fans put into the storytelling of Sonic games, when again, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. Most of the games don't have all that much story, and when they focus on the story, it f***ing reeks! I can count on one hand the number of Sonic games that have genuinely good or half-decent stories, and notice how most of them are pretty light in story. There might be a pattern. The adventure games have fun stories, but it's because they're so cheesy and over the top and stupid and swallow the pill, but if they came out today, they'd be clowned on as much, if not more than Forces, and vice versa. If Mephiles can have fans, anyone can. If I want storytelling in Sonic, I'll read the comics, the story-based medium, not the video games, the gameplay-based medium. Sonic era talk is really dumb. Is there a Game Gear era? Why not call Heroes Onwards the third-party era? Why not call right now the Hedgehog Engine 2 era? It makes more sense than meta. It's a little silly to allow enjoyment of a series with only one particular era. Heck, I think the concept of Sonic having eras is an error. Yeah, I'm a fan of the GBA Sonic era. They ruined him in Colors DS. Burst Wisp, you piece of shit. I mentioned the 3 types of Sonic fans, and I am firmly in the camp of Sonic fan. I like the classics, adventure, heroes, a few things in the Dark Age, a lot of stuff from the 2010s, and a whole lot in the in-betweens. I think Black Knight is awesome, but I also like Sonic Lost World a lot. I love the Sonic Boom show, but I also like Sonic X. When I was a dumb kid, I had no concept of quality yet. Sonic is my #1 video game franchise, but ding dang damn holy piss, some of these people are insane in the membrane. I don't even know what Sonic fans like anymore. I feel like every other year people flip-flop on which game is a fan favorite. When Unleashed came out, it had a pretty mixed reception, but now it's worshipped more than some gods. Forces also had a mixed reception, but now it's worst Sonic game of all time, I guess. Maybe it'll be a hidden gem in the future. When Colors came out, it was universally loved. Now is the start of Sonic's downfall or something like that. Are people gonna start hating Generations soon? Will Lawful become the newest gift from the gods? Will people come around on Sonic Drift 2? Was Sonic Chaos a diamond in the rough the whole time? Who's to say? I have no idea. I feel like I entered a parallel dimension where bad is good, good is bad, and okay means it's shit in my cereal. It's exhausting. Seriously, how does he have fans? I love Sonic, but it's unfortunate that my favorite game franchise is such a pain to talk about with people. At least I'm into a whole bunch of other video game series. If my favorite game series isn't that fun to talk about, I'll stick to talking about my second favorite game franchise. Oh god damn it!